In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Cloudways, a cloud hosting service. They've reached out to me recently and asked me to create some content for you to show you how to use their services. So this is a sponsored video and the first of 3. So let's take a look at what they offer. Before we take a look at any of the technical side of things, let me just quickly explain how Cloudways is going to work, because it is considerably different to what you're probably used to if you're dealing with normal reseller hosting or shared hosting, where you have either WHM or you have something like cPanel installed. This is basically an intermediary service between you, the user, and the cloud storage. Now we'll take a look at what cloud storage platforms are available. But what Cloudways basically do is they sit in between and make the whole process of you creating websites, creating applications, all these kinds of things on cloud hosting considerably easier. On top of that, they also offer you 24/7, 365 support. So if you are the kind of person like myself who wouldn't really know how to go about configuring and setting up a cloud server, this is a very, very user-friendly way of implementing that kind of service. So with that said, let's just jump over the pricing section, because this is kind of important and key to what you get and also how it actually works and integrates with various different cloud suppliers. So as you can see, we have some things like ever-ready support with 24/7, 365 support, which obviously, if you are a user like myself that has no experience of working on a cloud platform, this is going to give you peace of mind knowing that if you have questions, queries, or come across a problem, you can contact them and they should then be able to help you out. You've got pay-as-you-go, which means that you're not being tied into a long-term contract. And again, like I say, underneath it says there's no lock-in. So if you wanted to, you could use this for as long as you wanted to. You also have free migration. Now there's 2 ways you can look at this. The free migration, when you set up an account, they'll do 1 migration for you at the current time of recording this. However, you have migration tools as part of your dashboard, shall we call it, and this allows you to quickly migrate from other sites. So if you wanted to bring a site you already created on a different hosting plan into your Cloudways account, you could do that. We also have free SSL certificates, which again just saves you that little bit of money, not having to go through the process, and also makes it very easy because it's integrated into your Cloudways account. So let's just scroll down and take a look at the managed hosting plans and the different services, the cloud services we can currently tap into. You can see we've got DigitalOcean, Linode, Vultr, AWS, and Google Cloud, and each one of these will give you a different pricing structure. So if you take a look underneath, you can see you've got your sort of basic plan right the way up to a much bigger plan. Now each of these plans come with the things like your support, your free SSL, free migration, and so on. The main difference between them is the amount of resources you have access to. You can see the starting plan gives you a server with 1 GB of RAM, a single core, 25 GB of storage, and 1 TB of bandwidth, right the way up then to the $80 a month, which is going to give you considerably more. If we jump over to something like AWS, you can see the price changes accordingly, because these are different server settings, different server setups, and as you can see, we get different amounts of RAM. So even the most basic setup has more RAM involved in it, and so on. So it's worthwhile making sure that you start off with something that's good for you, probably right now and moving forward, maybe for the next 12 months, but you can, if you need to, scale this as you move forward. So that's the nice thing. You're not going to have to start a new hosting plan, migrate all your sites over. You can literally just upgrade the level of service and the level of facilities that you have as part of your account. Okay, well, what we're going to do to start off with is we're going to come to the DigitalOcean one, and we're going to set up an account. We're going to say, you can see we've got the option to start for free. And if we take a look underneath, you can see a quick overview of all the things the plans come with. Like I said, the free SSL, the support, and so on. What we're going to do is we're going to say, let's start for free. And I think this currently gives you around 3 days to test it out if you've got a new account that you're starting out. Now you can see we can sign in with LinkedIn and Google Plus and so on, or we can create a new account using your normal username, email, password, and so on. So what we've got is, how would I describe myself? We'll come back to the sort of like login section in a moment. You can see we've got, how would I describe myself? We can click and you can see this is going to sort of fine tune and suggest what it thinks is right for you as an individual or a company. I'm going to say I'm a freelance developer designer. And you see my monthly hosting spend is, and I can click on there and I can then go through and I can say, well, how much am I currently spending on hosting, or how much do I project that I'd like to spend on hosting? Let's keep this really simple and say $0 to $50. So if you have a promo code, you can click and you can add that into there. And if we get a promo code as part of working with Cloudways, I'll drop those into the description below so you can use those and save yourself a little money when they become available and applicable. What we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to say, I'll put my name in and we'll just sign up for an account. I'll just drop in my email address and create a password and then we're good to go. So I'll click on start free once I've agreed to the Cloudways terms. And this, like I say, is going to give us a couple of days where we can test the platform out. And if we want to move ahead, then we can carry on paying based upon the type of settings that we want to use as part of our account. Once we've done that, you can see that now takes us in and we get a welcome message that shows us a couple of things that you can do, how we can save money, install unlimited applications and so on. So we'll just close that down. Now, it's waiting for us to confirm our email. So once that comes in, we'll confirm that and we can then sort of complete this order side of things. But what this is going to do is allow us to go on through and fine tune and configure what we want the actual server setup to be like. And also tell us how much money it's going to cost us underneath. So you can see by default, it's going to install a copy of WordPress onto our site for us. If we want to change that, we can choose from any of the options we have. So we can use the latest version of WordPress or with WooCommerce installed, multi-site, or we can do it with no Cloudways sort of optimization included as part of it. However, there's a ton of other things we can do. We can install Magento, Drupal, OpenCart, PrestaShop, and so on. So you could choose whatever you want on there. I will just leave that to the default version 5.22 of WordPress. You can name your application, you can name your server, and you can select a project if you are grouping things together into projects. So this is one of those things that's a nice way of sort of install various different things into your project setup. So you may be working for a particular client, or you may have a freelance business, you may have your own personal kind of projects you want to work on. Then you can lump all these into their relevant different sections and create projects moving forward for those various different things you want to do. Application, you can just name it. You can name your server if you want to, and we'll just change that and we'll just call this WP Tuts. Application we're going to leave as is, and select the project we'll leave as is. However, we take a look underneath, you can see those 5 options for the cloud server locations are all set ready for us to choose what we think is the right one for us. So again, DigitalOcean right the way through to AWS and Google Cloud Platform. We can then come underneath and choose the amount of memory that we want to allocate to our server. And obviously this is going to have an impact upon the price. So depending upon what cloud storage server you choose and what server size you choose, these will dictate the price you'll pay underneath. So if we take this and just up this to 4 gigabytes, you can see that now changes the monthly amount to $42. However, if we bring this back down, you can see that limited to only $10 per month. So next up, we've got the option then for the location, and this is the location of your server. Now, depending upon who you choose for your cloud sort of storage will dictate where those server locations are. We're going to leave it on DigitalOcean, and you can see if we click to expand this out, we have server locations in London, San Francisco, Singapore, and so on. So quite a few options around the world. However, if we do something like AWS, you'll tend to find, if we scroll down, we have different options available now based upon the storage and database and so on, and also different locations for the actual servers. So we're going to put this back to DigitalOcean, set it back to 1 gigabyte, and London is perfectly fine because I'm based in the UK, so that's fine for me. Okay, so we've now configured everything. Before we can go ahead though, I need to actually confirm my account. So once that email comes in, I'll confirm that, and then we can take a look at launching this. And there we go. I've now confirmed my account and I can launch this with all the settings in place. So we'll just have one quick check through, make sure everything is as I want. DigitalOcean, 1 gigabyte server size, and based in London. Let's click on launch now, and that will then take us through into our account itself, where we can start taking a look at the things that we can do. Okay, so as you can see, it's adding the server. It's going to take a few minutes to do this. And this is where you're going to find it's quite different to when you're working with like reseller or shared hosting, which is what you may be used to, because this is actually creating the server setup for you based upon your parameters, the things that you've set up, and what cloud server you've said you want to work with, what cloud company. All those things are being set up in the background for you. To go through, you can see it gives us a little reiteration of what we've got, the name we've assigned it, 1 gigabyte for the actual RAM, London, and it was created today, and it's adding the server in there for us. We can switch between server and applications if we want to at the top, so we can click through and take a look. Oh, let's just click through to applications. Now currently we have nothing on there, but we could add applications if we want to. And like I say, consider applications to be things like WordPress and OpenCart and those kinds of things. So let's come back into this. Underneath, you can see we've now got a sort of onboarding video that'll tell you how you can go through the process of migrating your WordPress website in for you and how they'll do it for you. So if you want to take advantage of that, you can do that, and then you can let Cloudways migrate your existing site into your new cloud-based server. So what I'll do is I'll let this run through the process of setting everything up, and then we'll come back and take a look at what options we have and what tools we have to actually set up the server how we want and start installing things like WordPress onto our site. And there we go. There's our server all set up. You can see the details have been updated, including the IP address that's associated with our specific server. So this is something you will need later on when you want to associate domain names with your server or with any of the actual applications as part of your server. For now, don't worry too much about that, but the options are there when you need it. Okay, so we now have some information. So you can see we've got one application installed, which is that WordPress that was set up by default when we created the account. We also then have projects associated with the server. So we click, you can see we've got your project. If we click on the www, you can see it says we've got your application. Now, speaking of applications, we can toggle between the server and the application, and you'll see now when we toggle over, there's our application, our WP Touch server, your project, and so on. We can click and go and take a look at that if we want to, or we can click these little three dots on the right-hand side, at which point we can delete or we can clone the app or create a staging site. While I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video, we will cover and take a look at this in a future dedicated video. You can see that we can clone or we can create a staging site. Now, clone will do exactly as its name suggests. It will take a direct clone of the site that you currently have. And this is one of those things that you could, if you wanted to, create a range of default sites. So you may have one that's a WooCommerce based site and you have typical plugins you install in there. You could create one of those as an application. You could then set up all the plugins inside there, add your licenses and everything else to go with it, and then just leave that. And then you could do the same thing again with an Elementor based website and whatever you kind of want to do. Then what you could do is you could then clone that to a new application, and it will then do a direct copy of it with all those plugins in place, all those licenses and everything set up, which means you could very quickly and easily deploy those, start building out without having to go through that boring process of creating a site or an application, then uploading all the plugins, then activating all the plugins and all those kinds of things. That's a good way of using clone. However, the create a staging version is something different. This would allow you to create a staging copy of the site that you currently choose. And then you can go into there with its own dedicated URL using the same login details and everything. It will be an identical copy. You can make whatever changes you want there. So if you're testing out plugins or you have updates that are major updates and you don't want to cause a problem on your main site, then you can use that staging site, test things out, make sure everything works exactly as it should do, and then you can push that back over and replace the existing site with the new updated version from your staging site. Like I say, that's just a brief overview of the kinds of things you can do with those, and we will take a look at using staging sites in a future video. But for now, just knowing that they're there is also incredibly useful. Okay, so you've now taken a look at the applications, we've seen the server. What else do we actually have inside our account, and how would we go about deploying a copy of WordPress? Well, let's take a quick look. Let's just jump back to the server. So we'll just use this toggle switch, and there's our server. So what we're going to do is going to click on that server, and that'll take us over now, and we can take a look at the different things that we can update, configure, tweak, and all those kinds of things. So the first thing we have are the master credentials, and this is the IP address. Like I said earlier on, this is the IP address of your specific server. You've got the username and you've got the password for that server. So this is your master credentials for that server. We then have things like monitoring, which we can come and take a look, and you can see we've got a summary. This is going to go through and take a couple of seconds to load in, but we have various different things we can monitor on here, including RAM usage, CPU usage, and so on. So if you have multiple sites and you have a lot of traffic going through, you can use this monitoring section to make sure that everything is looking good, everything is healthy on there, making sure that there's no problems. As you can see, there's the summary, our server health, our RAM usage, CPU, and so on. If we come to the details section, again, it's going to come through, load that in, and it's going to give us information about the CPU and the free disk, all those kinds of things. And we can specify how big a period we want to check against, so 1 hour, 12 hours, 1 day, and so on. Probably a little bit too techy for what we need to do in this video, but you know it's there. Manage your services. If we come and take a quick look in there, we have all the different services that make up your actual cloud server. So things like Apache, MySQL, and those kinds of things. So you can see what's running, what's stopped. And if you needed to, you could easily restart any of the running services or enable or disable them, whatever you need to do. Again, these are probably a little techy for a lot of users, but it is there should you need it. We're going to leave out the settings and packages option because that's probably a little too techy for this video. But what we want to do is take a look at security. Inside here, this is where we can do the SSH and SFTP. We've got MySQL, we can whitelist labels, we can do all kinds of useful things inside there. We've also got backups, so we can come over and we can see when the backups are set to go. So we can set 1 day frequency, 6 hour frequency, 1 hour frequency. You can also specify the time, how long that backup's going to be sort of kept on the server for, and local backups, whether you want to disable or enable those. And finally, we have SMTP. Now, it's worth noting that one of the things you don't get as part of Cloudways is email server software setup. So if you are hosting your website with Cloudways, you're not going to have integrated into it any kind of email software. So this is something you either have to use on a different account, so maybe something like Google, or something specific just dedicated to dealing with emails. Or what you can do with this is you can choose between your own SMTP or Elastic Email. Now, Elastic Email is going to be something you'd have to pay for, so we're not going to touch upon that. This, like I say, is something that we don't need to worry about, but if you are using Cloudways, it's always worth bearing in mind that email is not something you're going to have as part of that account. Okay, so we've taken a look at those kinds of things. How do we now go about actually deploying a copy of WordPress? So there are a couple of ways we can actually deploy this application as part of our Cloudways account. We could, if we wanted to, come to applications at the top and we can see a list of all the applications we currently have and create and add new ones. Or we can use this yellow icon in the bottom right hand corner. You can see we have some other options inside here as well. So we can start, restart and delete. So we can start or restart the server if we needed to. However, what we want is just add app. I'm going to click on that. That'll take us over to exactly the same screen as we see if we go into the application. So this is sort of a quick way of accessing it from anywhere. Once we're inside here, we can see select application. And again, we've got that same list of all the different types of WordPress, PHP, Magento, all those kinds of things that we could choose what we wanted. So for this one, we're just going to choose version 5.22, which is the current version. Name our app, and we'll just call this test app. And if we wanted to, like I say, we can associate this with a project or create a new project. So you can see we get this just a way of sorting or categorizing your projects by clients or so on. So we'll leave that as part of our your project and we'll say add application. That's going to go through now and add the application. And again, you can see it's going to take up to 2 minutes to do this. So this is one of those things that is, it kind of separates the whole sort of cloud way of doing things. And because Cloudways are that sort of intermediary between you and the actual cloud server itself, where all the files reside, there is always going to be a small waiting period for these things to happen, for everything to go talk in between each other and get everything to exactly where you want. So we let that wait for the 2 minutes to go through the installation. Then we'll come back and take a look at where we are. There we go, the process has now completed and it's brought us back to our server settings. So you can see we can come in and we can take a look at any of the applications installed, or we can just jump over to the applications tab and you can see there's our applications. So you've got your application, test app, which is what we just created. Now that we can view all the applications, we can click and take a look at either the website. So we can click, that'll open up a new tab and you can see there's our new WordPress website. This at the top is the link through to it. It's our custom URL that's created every time you create a new application as part of your site. This works for creating a new application, as well as clones or any kind of staging sites. You're going to have dedicated, unique URLs for all of those kinds of things. So let's come back into our Cloudways account. Now, where we've got multiple different applications, it's going to get a little bit awkward to sort of keep track of everything. However, Cloudways makes this very easy. All we need to do is click on the name of the application and this will open up then all of the details for that particular account or that particular website. So if we take a look and scroll down, you can see we've got all the various different things like the access details, which will give us that application URL, the unique URL for any of the applications we create. We've also then got the information about the admin URL panel, the username, the password, and we can simply click on any of these and copy those details over. So we don't need to highlight anything and go through the process of copying and all those kinds of things with keyboard shortcuts or right clicks. We can literally just click on it and that will copy it. So we're then ready to go over and just jump into our dashboard. We've also got things like then your monitorings inside there, your domain management, which is something we'll take a look at later on down the line, where once you've created your account or your application and you're working through it and you've got everything set up, you could then go through and add your own domain to it. There's a couple of little steps you need to do. It's not as simple and straightforward as what you may be used to with something like cPanel and so on. But you do have full help and support on exactly how to do this. We'll take a look at that in another video where we cover a lot more detail exactly how various different aspects of this work. If you want to deal with cron jobs, so these are automated things that you want to happen on a regular basis, you can set those up inside here. And this is all being done on application level. So it's not going to be set up every single site. It's all based upon the application that you're currently working with. SSL certificate. So if you want to apply an SSL certificate directly to this particular sort of application, you can do that. You just simply need to come in, put the email address, the domain name you want to associate with it. Then you can install the certificate and you then have full SSL as part of that application. If you want to restore, you can restore this from various different things. So you can see we've got application backups. So we can restore, we can take a backup. So if you were in the process of wanting to trial something out and you want to make sure you have a backup, you can take that backup, try what you want. And if that completely falls apart, you can just restore that backup very, very quickly. You've also got Git integration. We can come in and take a look at application settings, and inside there you can see we've got things like general for the folder where this is going to be placed, the from address for any emails that are going to be sent. If you use Varnish, you can enable and disable this directly inside here. We've also then got migration tools, so if you want to, you can download and migrate any kind of application or website inside here. And finally, we've got the Cloudways CDN or Content Delivery Network. Now at the moment, you can't see this because it's only on a trial account, but you do have access to this. There is going to be a cost incurred with this, and as you can see, or hopefully you can see, is charged at $1 for 25 gigabytes per application. And then any additional consumption will be about 4 cents per gigabyte. Now there are cheaper options out there that you may want to sort of tap into, but if you want to keep everything on Cloudways, then you have this CDN as an option should you want to take advantage of it. And the final thing I want to say is if you are using Cloudways and you're new to this, or you come across any kind of problem or just have any questions, you have the option on the right hand side for need a hand, and you can click and expand that out. You've got the option then for your knowledge base, so you can search through for common issues, common questions, and also find out any help you need from there. You've got live chat, so you can speak to someone via live chat directly inside your browser and hopefully get help very, very quickly using that. However, if it's something that's not as important, you don't need information immediately, you could create a ticket and use their ticketing system. And finally, we have the communities, which you've got other users, people that use Cloudways that can help and support each other. So there's various different ways in which you can access help, support, and get your questions answered very easily using the Help Center. And finally, when you're working with multiple different applications, you start to group things together into projects. You can come to the Projects tab. Any of your projects will be listed here with some basic information on the right-hand side. The number of servers associated with this project, the number of applications associated with this project. You can create a new project, or you can come into your projects and see everything that's currently associated with it. In this example, you can see your project is the name of it, and we have your application and test app. Those are the two applications we have, both WordPress. They are part of this particular project. So grouping things together, making it very logical for you, all integrated directly into your Cloudways account. So it's super, super simple. And that's how you go about setting up an account on Cloudways, setting up your server, creating applications, grouping things, and all the different settings you have available inside your account. Hopefully what this has demonstrated is that if you put off using something like Cloudways, or you just want to work with cloud servers but you're not really comfortable getting your hands dirty on that really nitty-gritty codey kind of level, then this is something that's definitely worth taking a look at. A big thank you to Cloudways for sponsoring this video and the next two videos where I demonstrate a little bit more and deep dive into what Cloudways can do for you. If you've got any questions or comments on this, if you use Cloudways yourself or you're thinking of using it, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to get that conversation started. As always, all the applicable links for this and everything else we cover are in that description below, so you can click and check that out. If we have any discount codes, they'll also be in there as well, so you can save yourself a little bit of money when we have them available. As always, my name's been Paul C. This has been WP Tuts, and until next time, take care.